Gameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Bring you our Week 5 FBS Wraparound, where we're going to go across the country to take a look at some of the big games this week in the FBS. But first, let's start off in the SEC, where Alabama takes on Ole Miss.
First up, we have Ole Miss taking on Alabama, and this is an exciting young team with loads of talent. They've gotten better defensively, and offensively, they are explosive, and Bo Wallace hasn't thrown an interception all year long. And Bama is a battle-tested squad that looks to wail on you at the line of scrimmage. Look for Bama's secondary to be tested, but I see the Tide slowing this game down with the running attack, keeping that defense of theirs fresh and ready to get Ole Miss off the field. I like Alabama in this ball game. Next up, we have Oklahoma State taking on West Virginia, and quietly the Cowboys defense has finally caught up with their offense, and I don't care if it's 3 games or who they're playing. I like the intensity they are playing with, and linebacker Sean Lewis and safety Daquan Lowe are studs. For West Virginia, they're starting former Florida State's quarterback Clint Trickett back there at the quarterback spot and looking to shake off last week's loss to Maryland. Right now, the offense has to find tracking, and this is the worst possible matchup to do so, so I like the Cowboys to go on the road and knock off the Mountaineers. Colorado travels to Corvallis to take on the Beavers of Oregon State, and Colorado's quarterback Connor Wood has gotten off to a great start this year, and they're armed with one of the best wide receivers in the country in Paul Richardson. An opportunistic and aggressive defense, especially in the secondary, is what I've been most impressed with this football team. Now for Oregon State, after a Week 1 shocker, the Beavers have ripped off 3 straight victories and are looking like the team that many projected them to be coming into the season. I still have slight concerns about the defense's ability to get off the field, which is why I like Colorado to go on the road and pull off the upset. Houston travels to San Antonio to take on UTSA, the Roadrunners, and once again the Cougars find themselves facing a sound football team in the Roadrunners, and this time around they can't afford to get off to a slow start defensively because UTSA definitely has the ability to strike quick. Now for the Roadrunners, color me shocked, as I didn't expect them to come out the gates guns a-blazing last week versus UTEP, and what was most impressive was the fact that the offense had balance. Defensively, they're going to need an encore on the ground because you have to make Houston one-dimensional. As much as I like these guys and what they're building down there in San Antonio, I don't see them being able to limit what Houston brings to the table. I like the Cougars on the road. Another underrated game here in the SEC between Texas A&M and Arkansas, and for the Aggies, you have to love the way they can spread the field and attack the individual matchups. They're going to try to widen out that Razorback defense, and for Arkansas in this game, tough loss out there at Rutgers last week. They had that game won. They're going to be angry, ready to go versus A&M, who does give up a lot on the ground, so I look for Alex Collins to have a big day, although I like the Aggies to come away victorious versus the in-conference rival Arkansas Razorbacks. Big battle in the Pac-12 between Arizona and Washington, and Arizona is off to an amazing 3-0 start, and they've done it with defense, and while it may not be the Desert Swarm, it's still pretty darn good. And the Wildcats boast an impressive running game as well, led by one of the nation's best, Kadeem Carey. Now for the Huskies, they are also a surprising 3-0 team led by sensational quarterback Keith Price, who's improved dramatically over last season and is doing a great job protecting the football. The Huskies defense is nothing to sneeze at either. You look at defensive end Hauli Kikaha, this guy is a man-child up there on the line of scrimmage, and when you look at the game as a whole, I like Washington to win. I think they're a well-balanced offensive attack with running back Bishop Sankey and wide receiver Keshawn Williams, and I think their defense will do a great job of making Arizona one-dimensional, which means you take away the running game, force them to throw. I like the Huskies at home. Big battle in the Big Ten between Wisconsin and Ohio State, and when you look at the Badgers in this game, I think they're going to have to break tendencies by opening up the passing game first and use that to set up the run, even if that means getting both of the talented backs involved in the passing game early, like Melvin Gordon and also James White. Get those guys involved. It gives Ohio State linebackers that much more to worry about. I think that's where the advantage lies. Now for Ohio State, the biggest matchup on defense will be cornerback Bradley Roby versus Jared Aberdeen's outstanding receiver for Wisconsin, and I think they have to continue playing stellar run defense and win on the early down and distances to get these guys in passing situations. A huge game early in the season in the Big Ten. I like Ohio State. I like their ability to make plays consistently in the passing game, more so than Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin relies on the run and use that to set up the pass. I think Ohio State can play both games, so I like the Buckeyes to win this one at home. Another key battle in the Pac-12 between Stanford and Washington State, and you know what you're going to get out of Stanford once they step foot off the bus. You're going to get a power running game that operates off play action in the passing department. They do that exceptionally well. But defense, I love what they bring to the table with their linebacking core. I think they have the best quartet in the country, led by Shane Scobb, an outstanding player. Now for Washington State, defensively, the Cougars are stout as well, and they live behind the line of scrimmage. They're led by their outstanding linebacker, Cyrus Cohen, who's one of the best players in the Pac-12. But offensively, I don't think the Cougars have enough to threaten Stanford's defense, so I like the Cardinals to go on the road and knock off the Cougars. Huge battle between Oklahoma as they travel to Notre Dame to take on the Fighting Irish. And when you look at Blake Bell, did an impressive job 2 weeks ago versus Tulsa, throwing the football 4 touchdown passes, no interceptions. You have to be impressed moving forward. But can that offensive line protect these guys up front from Notre Dame? That's going to be the biggest key. Notre Dame does a great job in collapsing the pocket from within and forces you into bad decisions. So I like what they bring to the table, but I do believe this game will be won by Notre Dame because of the fact they can match up on the flanks. I love the corners versus the receivers battle. I think Notre Dame definitely has the advantage. Although Oklahoma has a better quarterback, I like Notre Dame to win this ball game with their defense at home. Big battle in the MAC between Toledo and Ball State, and Toledo and Ball State are fighting for first place in the West Division in the Mid-American Conference. And when you look at Toledo, you look at their offense, you like Terrence Owens, the quarterback. He has some outstanding weapons to get the football to, and David Fluellen in the backfield and Bernard Reedy. But keep an eye on Zach Curran up front, the center, one of the best centers in the country, legit NFL prospect. And defensively, they're opportunistic. They force turnovers, and they also get you off the field on third downs. For Ball State, you have to like their weapons. They have a deadly 1-2 combination in the backfield with Horatio Banks and Juwan Edwards to go along with their top quarterback, Keith Wenning. I see a lot of points being scored in this ball game. I don't think any defense will show up, although I do believe I can trust a team that's opportunistic, so I like the Rockets to go on the road to knock off Ball State. And finally, another big game in the Big Ten between Iowa and Minnesota. And for the Hawkeyes, they're still a young football team, but I like the way they're playing. They're winning the right way. Sound offense, sound defense, and special teams, and they're maximizing their opportunities in the red zone. Running back Mark Weissman is one of my favorite players in the country. I love the way he runs the ball. But if they're going to get him going this week versus the Gophers, they're going to have to make sure they get Rashid Hageman blocked up front. Otherwise, the Hawkeye offense could struggle. Now for Minnesota, the Gophers passed an early season test versus San Jose State, who posed a huge threat to the Gophers' ability to play in space, and they aced that with flying colors. Now this is a different animal, as the Hawkeyes will match physicality up front, so they're going to have to be ready to stop the run throughout the course of the ball game. Huge game early on in the Big Ten between two teams that are off to surprising start. So I like the Gophers in this game. This game will be won along the line of scrimmage. Both teams struggle throwing the football with consistency, so you can't really trust either passing game. You have to look at the ground game, and I like what Minnesota brings to the table. Triple-headed monster in the backfield. I think their defensive line is a lot better than Iowa's offensive front, so I look for the Gophers to win this one at home.